Hello again. Let's get this situated here. Okay, that's better. Good evening. Welcome to the stream tonight. We are in a really interesting time. We are about to enter a new period. Actually, a lot of us already have. When we enter the 2nd of September, we move into a very different phase from where we were. Although we're still in Virgo, we're moving from the Sun energy into Venus. What does that mean? We're going to talk about that tonight. The period of time that we have just moved out of and are moving into is the 8 of Pentacles moving into the 9. The Hermit that's up on the screen right now is due to the sign of the month, right? And the Hermit is the major that represents Virgo in the tarot. And the cards here, the 8 of Pentacles and the 9 of Pentacles, represent the deacon of the period. In this particular case, the 10-degree period of time associated with the 2nd. Let's just actually jump to the wheel here. Of September through the 11th of September. And you'll notice we jump from the 8th, or the 8 of Pentacles to the 9. And so during this period of time, we're actually in the middle of a transitional phase from that energy again of the Sun into the energy of Venus, from the energy of doing the work and into the fortunate place where we get to reap the benefit of that. And we're going to speak about that tonight at length, right? And then what we'll do is to apply each, whoever would like to participate, will apply each birth card to this period of time to get a sense of kind of where you're going individually, right? Because this is really a very general, global energy, and can be very, very effective in providing individual guidance as long as we know your birth card. So it's a very simple process for picking that. If you don't know what your birth card is, then I can find it for you pretty quick, and then we'll apply that as well. And we'll talk about the technique for discovering it on your own if you're picking this up after the live stream. It's real simple and very powerful for what it can do for you. Especially if you have a prior knowledge of the vocabulary of astrology. Melanie. Hello, honey. I guess she wants to be part of the stream. Let's say hi. Let's grab her. Hang on. Okay, this is Melanie. She's 6.5 months old, and she loves to bark. And so you might be hearing her a couple times, even though I live in the eastern part of the United States, and the time is 20 to 3 in the morning. And usually this little bean is asleep by now, but I guess she's awake because I'm awake, and her brother's trying to lay down and sleep, and she's like, nope, I want to play. So you might hear her barking and growling and trying to mess with her brother. Yep. Long-haired dachshund. Dachshunds are very proud, very dominant. So she's going to do what she's going to do. Especially the puppies, right, honey? Yes, that's right. Okay. Oh, there she goes. So there's a few things that we're going to be talking about tonight. I get a lot of questions related to time. Time is an important component of when you're looking at a circumstance for somebody or for yourself. What we do with the tarot when trying to answer a specific question or looking at a certain circumstance is to look at the karmic consequence from a couple of different perspectives or from a different context, typically in the form of a spread where the position of the card determines that context. Some of the times we use various other tools during the process, as far as astrological symbols, and other language and knowledge systems, like the correlation with the Kabbalistic tree of life, or the Hermetic system, the Enochian system, and so forth. So, but sometimes you'll just straight get the question, when will something happen, or when should I do something, or I have this event taking place in the near future, and the date of that event in the future. You can kind of get a sense of how you're gonna express or to manifest in that scenario. And a lot of these are related to a period of time. And so how do we, as readers, use the tools and the symbols of the tarot to answer that question? And there's actually a very simple method of doing that. And so how to read specific dates is something that we're going to be speaking about tonight as well. And the technique ties in to this period of time that we're in right now, and how to derive that. How to locate those cards is the same method of locating your birth card. And it's also the same method of telling time in tarot. So all of these things are connected. And once you have an understanding of that system, it can be applied in so many different places in your life, and to great effect. So tonight, I think, to start with, I'm going to use the Alchemical Tarot by Robert M. Place. I like this a lot. It offers two, in some cases conflicting, and in some cases harmonious systems, right? It's just because of your knowledge of the tarot, you'll notice the cards, bear that symbol system, right? And now, however, Mr. Place has taken the approach here, and moving forward with a lot of his future work as well. This is relatively old compared to his newer offerings, related to, for instance, the Alchemical Tarot de Marseille. That's a great deck. The Sevenfold Mystery and some other things that he's got going on. I know he's doing a lot too with the Lenormand, and he's also doing a lot with Oracle decks, which is an interesting departure. That said, I like the fact that you have overlaid on top of and separate from the tarot system is the alchemical system. So if Crowley was famous for proving the Kabbalistic tree of life connection to the tarot, which is really an expansion of the Golden Dawn system, which is really an expansion of Eliphas Levi, which is really an expansion of the whole Hermetic and esoteric body of knowledge that's tied into various tomes, arguably first written down with the intent of communicating that knowledge in Sefer Yetzirah, and older still from that are the basic ideas that this represents. But then Mr. Place takes this concept of that the tarot is essentially not a pictorial representation of the Kabbalistic tree of life, but of the alchemical process, the great work, the goal being the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, right? The Lapis Philosophorum, the Magnum Opus, the elixir, right? And his work on the subject is clearly coming from an authority on the subject, intellectually and spiritually. So, a lot of people may have an artistic skill, and then they apply that to, say, a tarot deck or to an oracle, Or you may have people like, for instance, this is a great example, is Lon Milo Duquette. You have the opposite, where you have somebody who is totally connected with the tarot, but is not necessarily an artist, but gives us this amazing magical system built into these cards, where all you would really need is this one deck, and you're essentially holding the corpus hermeticum. You're essentially holding a universe of knowledge in this deck, across multiple language systems, magical systems, so on. So it's easy to peg without investigation that Mr. Place is obviously a very talented artist. But what's his chops? And I was almost ashamed to ask the question upon investigation, because how dare I? His approach to this idea of the tarot being an alchemical process rather than a trip up the tree, so to speak, is immediately compelling. And the further you look into his ideas, and his book on Neoplatonism and tarot, if you haven't heard of it, go to Amazon and look up his name and his books. They're all great, but there's a couple in particular that really will change your view of symbolism and how it evolved, both for political reasons and societal reasons, as well as for spiritual reasons. And so I just thought it would be a nice deck to start with, because it gives us both the idea of the tarot, and at the same time also there's some symbolism in here that you might find inspiring in your own circumstance there. And so some of the other things that we're going to be speaking about is, we are entering this new period of time, and we'll go through those dynamics, both individually with your birth card and generally speaking. The daily message, which I post on my channel every day separately, and so that message is already up for the 2nd, as well as the pet reading, the birthday reading. If your birthday's September 2nd, happy birthday. Your reading is up on the channel now, so you can go check it out. And if you want a personal message, just ask. I've been known to give free readings to birthday people. Mind, Body, Soul as well it's a love reading this week, and it's an important message. And so I'll talk about it on the stream once it builds up. And as well, it's already on the channel, if you want to go check it out. Anybody who participates in my live streams is entitled to a personal message, and the way that that's derived is by finding your birth card and applying it to the current period that we're in. Right now, that being the 9. We're in a transitional phase because we're not fully into the 2nd yet, right? There's periods of the Earth that have not entered that period. And so we're very close, right? So we're still in this transition between the 8 and the 9, and eventually tomorrow you'll see those cards will be different, because that transition will be over and we'll be into a new period of time. So. And, there's a couple of things that I've considered doing on the channel. One of them is current events, or like a news type thing. And, the more I thought about that, the more I thought, let's not do that. It's something that I do with clients. That's kind of what gave me the idea to begin with. I have one client in particular who shall remain nameless. They're kind of a wealthy person that has this sort of carefree kind of lifestyle, and they ask me a lot about what's going on in the world, and they like to sort of bet my predictions against predictive markets, and sort of anyway, it's fun. It's actually very personally empowering, because when I'm right, it's fun. And so I started doing a lot of readings about things that were going on globally, and also within technology and things like this. And so I thought, it'd be interesting to kind of pop open Google News or something like that and look at what's going on and maybe do some readings related to those topics. But I did find that my audience is very diverse globally. It seems to be primarily the United States and India, but I do get a pretty diverse crowd, and so I thought, let me allow the audience to determine that. So if there's any particular subject that's going on either globally that you care about or on a local level in your area, let me know, and it'd be interesting to kind of take a look at the dynamics of that, and see, maybe can we see any interesting patterns, or maybe assist you in navigating some of those circumstances on a local level. And then the Spotlight deck, which is, believe it or not the Alchemical Tarot, and it's not a Robert M. Place deck. It's a totally different deck. It's called the Surrealist Tarot. I have it here, and I'm going to bring it out when it's time. I don't know what to think. I can't stop looking at it. But that's going to be a great discussion as well. And so, that said, there's a couple of things that we're going to be speaking about here tonight that are connected. How to find your birth card. How to tell time using the tarot. Having an idea of where we are right now with respect to the global karmic trajectory. All of these things are derived through a very similar method, and that method is what's called the decanate, or the decans. The word decan comes from the word deca, meaning 10. Now, why 10? Well, the ancients, as they were, had a compulsion to divide up their world in order to make it a bit easier to process and understand. We still use these standards today. One of the most obvious examples of that is, if you look at a globe, we cut it up into grids, right? Longitude and latitude, and I can give you numbers, and based on that system that you and I both agree upon, you can know exactly where a certain spot is on the planet, and that's very effective. We can even teach that knowledge to robots, and then we can use that to use GPS and stuff, right? So it's a very effective method of cataloging time and space. And they did this with everything. And whether it was first or became prominent, one of the most prominent was their division of the sky. And, it was a very effective way, too, of navigation, both on land and in sea, as well as navigation through long periods of time that exceed your life. So when they were attempting to catalog certain events over periods of time that was longer than their even generations, multiple generations, they were still able to use this system to do that. So, and what they did is they would divide the sky up into many different chunks, right? And so we're very familiar with if you divide it into 12. And why 12? That wasn't an accident, obviously. It was because 12 is the number of times the moon goes around the earth, and the time it takes the earth to go around the sun once. The moon does it 12 times. There's 12 moons in one sun. It's a 12-to-1 ratio there. So we cut that circle up into 12. Okay, and what we have, if you look at this here, is we have these sections of color. If we start on the left-hand side and look to the left, you'll see that red section. There's those three symbols there. Aries, and that red, and then the orange, there's 3 sections, the yellow, and so on. Each one of these is a moon, also referred to as a month. And now each month is ruled by an influence. Now that influence, and there's a few ways that astrology deals with this as well. Astrology deals with this by calling them houses. There's also the idea of the lunar mansions, which is out of the scope of this stream, but I will be speaking about lunar mansions in the very near future. Each one of these is ruled by a sign, an astrological sign. So Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, so forth. Now, with respect to the tarot, each one of those signs, I happen to be Sagittarius. We are in the period right now of Virgo. Has a card associated with it. The card for Virgo is the Hermit. So you'll see this card up right now due to the fact that Virgo is represented by the major Hermit. And so I have that up. And we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. And what we're able to do as well is to look at the period of time that we're currently in. So today's date, September 2nd, is the 9 of Pentacles. And, already you can see how this could be used to tell time, because we could do the reverse as well. So if I pull a 9 of Pentacles, I can go, I wonder what date that refers to. And so we can go to the wheel here and we can find the 9 of Pentacles on that outer edge. And if, to make it quicker for you, it's in the green section to the right under Virgo. You'll see the 9 of disc or pentacle. And right next to that, you'll see that refers to the period of time, or the 10-degree period of between September 2nd and September 11th. So right away we know that this card represents that period of time. So if I'm asking a question when, and I get the 9 of Pentacles, I know that we're talking about this 10-degree period of time on the wheel. The reverse is also true, where if you say, I wonder what my birth card is, right? You can take your birthday, go to the wheel, locate your birthday, and then that will tell you your birth card. In my case, it happens to be the 10 of Pentacles. Or sorry, the 10 of Wand, rather. And now the interesting thing about this, and it's important to remember, this card does not change throughout your life. These cards change because the days that we're passing through do, but the date of your birth is constant. Once it's set, it's set. So just like your sun sign, or any of your other planets, it doesn't change throughout your life. And so your birth card's always your birth card. I will be a 10 of Wand my whole life, and so I can always apply that in this circumstance. And let's go ahead and do that as an example. I'll pop out the 10 of Wand here, and let's move that over so we're in a similar spread to these other cards. Okay. And I want to get rid of that one behind there. Okay. So what I would do is take the birth card. In this particular circumstance, I'm using the 10 of Wands because that's my birth card. Excuse me. And applying that with the current decan, the current period of time that we're in, and that being the 9 of Pentacles. Moving from the 8 to the 9, but we're in the 9 where I live. And the period of the month that doesn't change for the month is the Hermit. Now, there's some dynamics here, too, that I want to talk about before I interpret this. You'll notice that each month has 3 different sections, 3 decans for each month, right? It's not just like there's one card for the month like the major. The decans are 10-degree periods, and so there's 36 of them for the year. It's a 360-degree year, 10 degrees sections, and so that's 36 decans, right? So in this circumstance here, what that means is each month has 3 decans. We're currently in the period of the 9 of Pentacles. Now, one of the things to remember is that when you're entering the month, you're in a new phase. There's a purity to the energy. When you reach that middle phase, it becomes transitional, and we're changing from the sun to Venus. And you'll notice that here in that transition here from the 8 of Pentacles to the 9, we're going from the sun into Venus. And so you would read that astrologically as going from the sun in Virgo to Venus in Virgo. And what is the difference there, right? And so that's a very good way to read that. And we're moving from a purer form of the element to a more transitional form as we begin to move through the month. Or in this case, that the 10-degree period of time. So my birth card being the 10 of Wand, connected with the 9 of Pentacle. Let's discuss that, because the idea of the 10 of Wand is the idea of carrying the burden, right? However, it's willful. It's not like you're forced. The person in the 10 of Wand makes the decision to do that. They're empowered somehow. Some people define themselves through giving. Some people define themselves through receiving. If we're lucky, we can balance that. So Jenny, hello, good to see you. And if we're able to balance that, what we can wind up doing is we can begin to receive as much as we give, and it not become a burden, but rather become a fulfilling energy. And that's always a good thing when that's able to happen. I'm looking for the 10 of Wand here. Give me a moment. So let's... I must have missed it. So the idea of the 10 of Wand and that burden, the fact that you carry it with you, sure. Yeah, actually, see, yeah, well, I'm going to be doing some readings in a little bit here, a couple minutes. Just reviewing one of the topics today related to the period of time that we're moving into, which would be the 9 of Pentacles. And then I'll begin with some readings, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. So it'll just be a moment. And actually, I looked up the stuff, and I have some things to talk to you about related to that subject, and so it'll just be a moment. So, the idea of the burden, being a willful choice, has some ideas here that we have to consider, right? Like, it's not sustainable if you overextend for too long. So, eventually this person will be forced to put some of those, if not all of those, sticks down, and then suffer the disappointment that comes from not fulfilling your obligation. And it's not even the word obligation, it's more of fulfilling your word. You said you would do it, but if you overextend yourself, you put yourself in the position of not being able to complete that or fulfill that. And especially for somebody who is the 10 of Wand sort of as their character, that can be very damaging mentally and emotionally. The lesson is, it's okay to do for others. That's fine. However, don't overextend yourself, and don't commit to things that you're not physically able to even guarantee that you're able to do. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to them, and it's not sustainable. It can't persist. Eventually it will hurt you. It will hold you back. the nine here, the nine of Pentacle, this energy is interesting. This woman is in her garden, in her bliss with her bird, and enjoying the fruits of her labor. And she's the card here represents exactly that. The work's been done, and now that it's been done, you are allowed, due to your work, rest. Your obligations are done for the time being, and you have this opportunity to kind of be in a comfortable place and basically receive the reward of that, right? This is the time to gain, to benefit. However, the reverse is also true if the work wasn't done. If the work wasn't done, instead of this being a period of gain and rest, this becomes a period of anxiety over the lost opportunity. You could have gained, but you weren't able to complete that work. Now, why? That's the real question, right? If you have, and you're in a state of reception and benefiting from your work, then forget what I'm about to say. But if you fell short, and this period of time is going to feel like a disappointment to you for not fulfilling your obligation and not being able to complete what you said you would, then this is for you. And the message here is, whenever we find ourselves in a transitional phase, is an opportunity for us to make good. There's no going back. You failed. Okay, so the thing that you wanted to create, it was not created, and that's okay. The next step is not to try to repair that and make it what you thought it should be. It's to say, okay, I'm going to step back and now create something else. I'm going to, in the case of the Ten of Wand, I'm going to maybe reconsider how I set boundaries, reconsider how much I take on, so that I'm able to be personally happy about the work, and that the work doesn't suffer because I'm doing too much, that I'm still able to give because it makes me happy, and at the same time not overextend, so it's actually something that's sustainable, that will continue, right? And so that's really the lesson here. Hello, Shrishti, good to see you. Thank you for popping in on the stream. We have a lot of fun stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. So that's the gist of how to use this technique, by simply locating your birth card, and by having that knowledge, applying it to the period of time that we're in right now, the ruling deacon, the 10-degree period, that 10 days. And you can have a horoscope, right? And it's a very effective tool for that, okay? So very quickly, Sajini, I have some notes here I took based on a question that you had before. You wanted me to look into the information about the other side of that connection that we talked about last time, right? Let's see. Yep. Okay. Great. Okay, so yeah. So here's what I was able to find. The Seven of Cup is the card, right? So hang on, let's dive in here real quick and give me just a moment to put this together. Okay, now his birth card is the Seven of Cup. Okay, now this is, just to be clear. Okay, that's not your card, that's his card. What else did I have down here? Okay, right, okay. So let me pop out his card real quick so we can look at it together. And then we can I can answer your question now. And so what we're looking for here is... Seven of Cup. So the Seven of Cup, okay, the Seven, let me shut the camera off behind the cards there so it's not a distraction. Pardon me. The Seven of Cup is a, it's a card of illusion. It's a card that represents, yes, I can see your messages. Yep. Yeah, it's, just to be clear, the reading that I'm discussing right now is for Sagini, related to your love interest. This is their birth card, the Seven of Cup, and what we have here is a illusory, not real, fantasy. If you'll notice the person looking out to all the different cups, each one of these is an ideal that doesn't really exist. And this is the state that they're in. This is their birth card. This is their environment spiritually. Now, I made a couple of notes as well here. Yep. Right. Yeah, and there's a couple of dynamics as well, right? Let's like for instance, let's look at the Seven of Cup. If we go to the wheel and we find the Seven of Cup, you'll see it's at the top right in the blue-green section, and that is Venus in Scorpio. Okay? Venus in Scorpio is deception emotionally. It's also an idea of selfishness from that regard. It's the idea of somebody that is superficial. There's a certain demeanor on the outside that they show the world, and that's the thing that you see and that you base what you think you know about them on, this outward self. Then there's the inner person, which is completely, in this individual's case, doesn't come out very often. They don't share that very often with others. So what I see here as well, now your card was the Five of Sword, right? And so I don't think I missed anything as far as my notes here. All right, no, okay, yeah. And let me pop that out so we can, right now. Let me pop that out so we can have those two together here. Okay. And so this combination is something that you have to consider here, because what in the Five of Sword, like we've talked about a couple times, there's a couple people, right? You are one of those people, and he's one of those people. What we have here is and there's three individuals here. There's three possibilities of who you could be. There's the person in the front, which is benefiting from the work of the other two when they haven't earned it. Or another way of putting that is that those two did the lion's share of the work, and this person is getting the lion's share of the reward. There's an unfairness, an imbalance to that. And furthermore, the person in the front, and if you look at the art on the face, the artist very specifically attempted to depict a sense of like smugness about it, like they're a bully, like they did it on purpose, right? Then there's the person all the way in the back, the one that's in the middle, the smallest of the three, but they're in the back by the water, and they kind of look like they're putting their head down, and they're almost crying about the fact that they've been taken, used. They recognize now what's occurred, and it's upsetting them. They didn't recognize before, which is what allowed it to happen, but now they do, right? Then there's the person in the middle. That person in the middle is sort of like the voice of reason, the one that is outside of the situation from a degree and is able to see it clearly and kind of try to go into the back. Notice they're walking toward that person in the back to console them and to try to potentially teach them to look out for that in the future, right? To not be used again. And here's the even funnier part. The one in the front, they're taking the swords, but see those two that are laying down? Those swords are swords that they're leaving behind. They care so little that they're actually leaving them behind. It's not about taking the swords, it's about the power. They don't even care about the swords. It's more about winning. And so it's sort of a, this confidence is good in certain circumstances, but if it's applied wrong, it's really just selfish and not conducive to, forget about a relationship, but human interaction, right? This is the kind of person that, on an individual level, you don't even want to be around. But in a group, they're probably really dynamic and powerful and people like them. There's a confidence about them, but at the same time, in person, alone, they're users. So you have to kind of consider this here from the respect of who you are in this circumstance, because what this card represents is the fact that you can be and slip into any one of these roles throughout your life. But you have to be very cautious if you are in the role of that one in the back, because it could be easy for you to be used, or it could be easy for you to give in to somebody else that's attempting to manipulate. Now, as far as the 7, which is them, when you put these two cards together, what you have is the idea of the user and the act of that happening is concealed by fantasy, like it's not being noticed. Now, the period of time that we're in is very relevant right now with respect to the Hermit, because what this is showing you, and this is the real important lesson here, this is the answer to your question. The truth can only be seen in darkness, and the reason for that is that the lantern that the Hermit holds, that light can easily be drowned out by the sun. But in darkness, that light shines, and it's a magic light that can only shine on the truth. So it's useless in the light, but it is everything in the dark. And so the lesson here is to take yourself alone, essentially. That's what in the darkness means, alone and not in the world. And to do the work, shine the light, see where it points, and ultimately outside of the personality, the thing that we project to the world. You want to look at the reality from the perspective of the self before you were given a name and an identity that you agree with, right? And so that's what the idea of the Hermit is. So what this is, the answer here is that this person that you've referred to here is not for you. They're an illusion to you. They're an ideal that you may want and seek, but they're not attainable. You could try, but I don't see it working. I don't see it happening. Now, does that mean it can't happen? No. It could happen. Now, the question is how, right? How would you go about making that happen? Now, that's a little more in depth and in the scope of like a live stream basic kind of reading. And so I would be happy to look into that for you, but it'd be something that would be a little more advanced than, this particular circumstance of kind of getting the general gist. But the general gist is that there is the energy's not great, and it really seems to be actually potentially deceptive or selfish in that regard. Okay. So let me just set this up here. And I hope that was insightful. I know it's a lot to kind of take in. When someone hits you with it's not right, or it might not work the way you'd like, but the reality is I just don't see the connection being real. It's just not. No, I don't. Okay, and all I would ask again, Sajini, and you've been so great, and I really appreciate your participation in my channel. It really does mean a lot, and so I really just wanted to say I appreciate that. And if you'd like, as I pop in on these live streams, we can continue this conversation. Due to the integrity of the channel and what I do as a professional, I've been reading cards for almost 40 years. I am happy to discuss basic stuff, but if we do wind up getting into some more advanced information that requires more energy, more cards, more time, I do have a fee associated with that is very moderate. But what it also does is it sets that time aside so that we're not in like a time rushed situation like in a live stream, or as the streams build up where there's multiple people looking for an answer, and that would be done on a private basis. So not during a live stream. We could connect via Zoom or even a private stream on YouTube. And answer these questions, and that's between a half an hour or longer, an hour in some cases, really getting to the heart of a question. And so if you'd like to do that at any time, I'm available for that. And you just let me know. Otherwise, we can kind of do this on a nightly basis, and sort of chip away at the question as we progress. Okay, and so moving on. Srishti, if you're still in the room, let me know. Okay, let's take a look at your birthday. Seven of Wand. Srishti, you're Seven of Wand, and so let's take a look at that. If you're not in the room, Zucano, how's it going? Thank you for joining the stream. It's good to see you. Let's see here. Okay, so we have the Seven of Wand. Okay, so let's take a look at where we are right now. Kind of where you're coming from and where we're moving to. Okay, so let's just get that set up there. Great. Now, what we're looking at here, just to be clear, the first card is your birth card. That is the card that follows you through your life, just like your sign. And so memorize it. It doesn't change. That card is with you throughout your life. And how it's derived is we find your birthday on the wheel, in this case, August 20th. And we see that that falls under the Seven of Wand. Zen, hello, thank you for joining. Absolutely. Anybody who participates in my live stream is entitled to a free personal message, no problem. There's one or two ahead of you, but I'll be happy to do that for you. And so, in this particular case, we also see that not only are you in the Seven of Wand, we're also in the period in that time of Mars in Leo. Okay, Mars in Leo. And so when you look at this circumstance, what we have in the Seven of Wand is you've got a person who's clearly in the midst of a battle. They're not preparing for the fight, they're in it. Ready or not, there's people coming, right? And those wands and staffs are coming toward you. Now, there's a couple of points that you want to remember about this card as we look at it. First, this person is not injured. They look pretty confident. They're in an offensive position, not a defensive position. So they're in they have the high ground. They're above the attackers. All of these things are indicative of somebody who's winning. And so the Eight of Wand is, or the Seven rather, of Wand is a good card for doing the work and succeeding, right? It's kind of like they're in a state where no matter what somebody throws at them, they can kind of handle it. And they're in this overall trajectory of success. When you apply that with the current period of time that we've just entered, and I mean literally just entered on the 2nd of September, this card represents the rest that comes from doing the work correctly. You have obligations, things that have occur in your life that require your attention, like it or not. And you're in a position to either do those things or not, show up 100% or give a little bit, do good work or do rushed work, right? You know, these are options that we have. Now, if you do the correct, if you do good work, if you respect your word, the reward is the Nine of Pentacles, which is rest, peace, the ecstatic state that comes from knowing that you succeeded because you put in the work and you completed it. And so there's a peace that comes from that, a weight that's lifted. The reverse is also true. If you didn't do the work, if you failed to show up, instead of the reward, you get the anxiety of the missed opportunity. I could have reaped this benefit, but now I'm not gonna because I wasn't able to complete it. Now, there is a lesson here though, right? Like, what led to you not being able to show up? What got in your way? But in your case, Srishti, I don't see that. In your case, due to the fact that we're looking at this Seven of Wand, you're in a very good position. Like, the work is positive. It's being done correctly. And so the reward of that is going to be positive. And this period of time that you're entering, this accounts for the next about 10 days. Puts you in a very good position to succeed. The Hermit, however, like I had spoken about before, is the card of going off alone and looking inward in order to see the truth. And what that means is the thing that you are before you were given the name, the thing that you are before you occupy the body that you occupy, the thing that you will always be after you've passed on, the observer, the driver, your life force, right? That source of knowledge is much truer than anything that can be perceived in the world. And so what the Hermit talks about is the truth in darkness, with that lantern that shines on the truth. And so in the light it doesn't work because it gets drowned out, but in darkness it becomes effective. So the lesson here is, although you're going to face adversity during this 10-day period, because of the inner strength that you've developed, you're going to be okay, and you're going to have a relatively peaceful time during that process. However, that requires your participation in that, meaning that you have to allow yourself to ignore the din of the world, the noise of the outward world, and look in to find that peace. You're going to be busy. It's going to be a busy 10 days, and that's okay. Because when you come out of it, you're going to be relaxed, and you're going to feel great. Okay, so I hope that was insightful. I don't know if... Yep. Okay, good. And so now keep in mind that the Seven of Wands here, remember that card, okay? So if somebody asks you, like, what's my sign? It's very easy for people to rattle that off, but what's my card? It's nice to know, because you can tell this to a reader and say, oh, by the way, this is my card. And so, they can do a reading accordingly. And it's the Seven of Wands, okay? All right. So, that said, next on the list here, it looks like Zucano, Zen, and Pooja. Okay. And hello, Pooja. Thank you for joining the stream. I appreciate that. So, let's take a look here. First thing I'm going to do is let's make a little mini list here of the personal messages. And again, Zucano. Zen. Pooja. Okay. Great. So, Srishti, you're so welcome. And all I would ask of anybody, if you find any value in what I'm doing, please like the video and consider a comment. Most of the people who watch my streams or my videos do so because I come up in their feed, right? And that's because of the algorithm, and the algorithm pays very close attention to engagement, comments, likes, all that stuff matters. And so it would really be a big help to do that for me. And so anytime, I appreciate that for joining. So that said, we're moving to Zucano. We are at November 14th. Let's take a look. Okay, now November 14th is the Seven of Cups, which actually interesting we just looked at. So let's take a look at the Seven of Cups here. Okay, give me just a moment to set this up. Okay. Let me just verify that here. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, you know what? Zakano, you've been in here before, and I've done a reading for you before. And I recall then as well, there was this similar circumstance where it was similar to the reading before because that card had fallen the same way. And I don't feel that's appropriate. So rather, if there's another question that you have, please go ahead and pose that. Typically, I charge for that type of thing, but I'm not going to. I'll do a quick reading for you on a specific question, right? Rather than the personal message. So let's take a look at the question. Please, whether I could able to get my job or not. Interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at that, because it seems like also you're asking like I have a question for you, Zakano. Does whether or not you get the job does the grade the determining factor? I mean, certainly there's got to be other factors than that, right? And was that an exam that was given by the company that you're attempting to work for? Because let's take a look. The general energy of this question here, right, okay. The general question here related to your job circumstance. This is not a fast-moving situation. Whether that means that there's some process on their end that's kind of prolonging the process, or something on your end that you're missing as far as that process. It seems to be like the circumstances is sort of trudging along, maybe a bit longer than you'd like. At the same time, you clearly have a desire here. There's a motivation. Okay. Here's the lesson. The lesson here is you're the driver. However, you rely upon the horses to pull the wagon, right? The chariot is a card of movement and motion, and it's a good card in that respect. It does mean you moving towards your goal, and that's great. However, the chariot also requires the horses. Those horses are pulling it, and if they choose not to pull it, that chariot's going nowhere. So although you're the driver and although you steer, you must earn the respect of these two horses, or that chariot is not going to move towards your desired goal. Now, who are the horses? Interesting question. The horses are you. They're your higher self. They're your karma. Now, what is karma? I like to think of it as the vector, the direction, the trajectory, the direction you're pointed in at the moment of your creation, right? Now, you can deviate from this. You're not stuck moving in that direction, but if you swim against it, it's harder. There's more work. If you swim with it, it's easy. the idea of the Chariot is that you are in connection with that. You and your higher self, you and your karma are moving in the same direction. You want what it wants. It wants what you want. And therefore, they move nice together. So, it's up to you. But the fact that this is not moving means that there's a disconnection here. There's something between the action that you're taking or how you're going about it and the horses, and we need to wake them up. So let's see. And now what this is this is the Five of Pentacle. The Five of Pentacle is the idea of need. This person is needy. This person is injured. They're missing a leg. They're miserly and they need help, and they're begging for help. Esoterically, the symbolism here is this, and it's a profound one. You are coming from a place of need, and people see that. So when you're attempting to come off as powerful, the way to do that is not to appear that you need. It's rather to appear that they need you. Now, you don't want to come off cocky, but confident. And so rather what this is there's something in the way that you're presenting yourself in this circumstance that puts you in a place of looking like you need them instead of the other way around. And so they're not motivated. They need to be convinced that they need you, which is kind of the truth. That happens to be the reality of the situation, so it's not hard. We just need to direct their attention, right? And so here's an example of that. For instance, you mentioned that you had done better on this exam and that you feel that would hopefully maybe help them to make a decision in your favor, right? How you present that matters. Like, it's not going, hey, I got 100 on this exam, will you consider me? Rather, it's a matter of saying, what's more important to you? My enthusiasm in working here, or the fact that I got the 100 on the test? Like, because I know that the test number is important, but I feel like my enthusiasm is more important. Did you see how I worded that? The difference is you're coming almost from a place of authority. Like, not only did I do good on the test, but I'm also bringing this other thing. So you're almost saying, oh, I got 100, but that's not even important. What's important is how lucky are you that I'm even here, that I'm going to bring my motivation and inspiration to your company. That's a big deal, right? And so there's just the twist in how that's worded takes you away from a place of need and puts you in this state of just driving that car, right? Just like aligning your will with the will of the circumstance. Because right now it's going nowhere. You have to convince this elephant to get off of these jars. That's your job. And the way to do that is to see this here. This elephant sees you coming toward him with your hand out, and he's like, I don't care. But if you instead turn yourself into the thing that he desires, the elephant's going to walk off the jars to get what you have. Turn it from want to have, and he's going to want. Okay? And so I hope that was insightful. And again, all I ask, if you find any value in what I'm doing, that you consider liking the video. And a comment is a huge deal. Even if it's like, thanks for the reading, or if you want to plug in your month and day of your birth, if you don't know or forget your birth card, and I'll answer your comment with that information. Okay, so consider that. So who do we have here next? Zen. Okay, you're so welcome, Zucano. Thank you, and thank you for participating in my streams. You've been in here many times, and that means a lot. You know, I want to be able to build a community of people that I connect with. Otherwise, what's the point, right? There has to be a mutual connection and understanding, or this doesn't work. If I find I'm stretching and looking for an answer, that means that the connection's not solid, and I usually abandon the reading because it doesn't work. And you know, several people have been in here more than once, and I'm feeling a good connection with a couple, and so it's working out very well, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Let me refresh the list here now. So we have Zen, who will be next. And then we have Pooja. And if, just to be clear, if you're still in the room, give me something, a thumbs up, whatever. Zen, you know, I appreciate you gave me the and so we'll take a look at that next. And then we will take a look at Pooja. If you're still in the room, same thing, if you can let me know. And we'll go from there. Okay, so in the meantime, let's get this set up here for our next reading. Okay, Zen, I need your, unless you've already put it in here, let me look back. Oh, thank you for liking it. That's awesome. It really does make a difference. You're looking at me because the robots said so, and the robots look at that stuff, you know. Okay, so I need your month and day of birth, Zen. Wow, what a neat question. Cool. That's a different one. You know, I don't get that very often. Usually I get, how do I get her to like me? Not, how do I get her to leave me alone? So we'll see, right? Okay, so... Okay. Great. And there we go. So, let's take a look here. What an interesting question. You know what? I'm going to use a different deck. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to use a different deck here. Let's take a look. This is the Tarot of the Holy Light. This is a great deck. Uses a lot of alchemical imagery, and it uses a lot of hermetic imagery, which I'm a big fan of. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. That's what I'm trying to do. And also, you know, healing when possible should always be the first goal. But if it's not, and it's not always, letting go of what used to be and allowing for the possibility of something new to be created is equally important, right? And so one of the things I'm trying to do here as well on the channel is to cultivate and foster that as well. This idea of, if you'll notice as I go through my readings, I do a lot of explaining, because what I'm trying to do is wake people up to this language, to this vocabulary, because it connects us. It allows us to understand each other, because we're the same. This is God looking at themselves. This is God talking to themselves. Like, how do we not realize that? And the closer we can get to recognizing that we are the same, going through a different experience, then, we can be better for that. And so I appreciate that you feel that as well. So let's take a look here. I'm going to throw 2 cards first, and that's going to be you and her, where you are, where they are, in their minds. Like, what's the motivation here? Why is she doing it? The why matters. The why is the one question tarot is really good at answering, too. Okay, oh, interesting. Let's go for that. We'll start with these top 2. Okay, this is you. This is her. So, the initial connection was due to the fact that you were sort of this, you overdid it. And what I mean by that is that placating is good for someone else's feelings, but if it goes over the top, they can become infatuated, especially if they have insecurity issues to begin with, and then you are a source of fulfilling their identity. They're gonna latch on like freaking white on rice, right? The symbol here is of twofold. Yes, it looks like the Starbucks symbol, but it's more than that. There's this idea of the milk and the blood, basically suffering and nourishing at the same time. Like, your job was to both feed this person and also appear in their presence for the sake of benefit to that needy in some fashion, injured, like, oh, woe is me, look at this thing I did and it was so hard, oh yeah, here, I'm here for you. When you combine these energies, you become attractive to people that are in need. Now, that need may be direct or it may be internal. It may be like an emotional need, it may be a mental instability or disability or illness that you exacerbate through that behavior. But this turned out to be the perfect storm, right? And now in this case, this person Four of Swords, they're lying down on this bed. The 3 swords are here, and then there's the one that's next to them there. The idea here is that this has happened before. This is not new behavior for them. This particular behavior is, each one of those swords is another person they've done this to. And right now you're the sword on the bottom. Let's put it this way. You're the sword on the bottom, and they're resting on that, and you're the new project, right? You're the new victim. First of all, if there is any level of nourishment still happening, cut her off. Like, it's time. If you're trying to protect her, stop. You know I'm a psychic reader myself and I have a big channel. Really? Okay, well, that's a problem. First of all, you can also block this person unless they're going to kind of get loopy and then create different accounts and all that, and it can be a little hard sometimes. Now, here's the problem with the environment that we're in. If you are a reader, yeah, we put ourselves out there. There's risk in what we do because we become an emotional anchor for people sometimes. We're touching parts of their lives so they don't share with people often, or if they do, it's from a a very outward, aesthetic way, not real. But when there's an actual connection that takes place, we run the danger, the risk of being infatuated on. Right? It happens. Right? It's sort of like the idea too within psychology of disclosure. There's a technique in that where the more you disclose personally about yourself to somebody, the more apt they are to do the same. And so, by nature of the fact that somebody's coming to someone with trust and revealing intimate parts of themselves, it immediately attaches them to you. There's even people who have attached to me that have never even laid eyes on me or heard my voice, but simply through interaction with email and chat, right? It just happens. Asha, hello. Thank you for joining the stream. And so we run that risk, don't we? And that happens. And so one of the things that you can do, one way to kill a monkey is to starve it to death. So if there's going to be a problem with this person, you really got to cut off all attention in general, block it in the stream. If you don't have them, I don't have a moderators, I'm too small. Eventually when I have moderators in here, that kind of person is going to get blocked. And I'm not saying that you should directly ignore them if you don't want to, if your energy's saying don't do that, but I think you know that that's probably the only way to really deal with that. But let's take a look. The fact is that we run into that risk because of what we do. It's sort of intrinsic to the fact that people come to us with serious questions, and if we're able to connect with them, that can be a lot. Oh boy. This is the Lovers, by the way. Now, as you know, as a reader, that doesn't mean that, you're going to have this relationship with them, but it can absolutely, and especially in this circumstance, relate to infatuation. Unhealthy. But it's also a major, so we're not necessarily even speaking from that degree. Well, that's okay. Normally strong is a misnomer. You're normally you. Sometimes you're strong, sometimes you're not. You may think ratio-wise you're stronger than other, and that's great. That just means that you took your knocks and you benefited from them throughout your life, right? And so if you're in a downtime, that's okay. That's where you are. That's all that means. But that's it. It's probably not helping that this person is sort of like getting in your head, causing you all like mixed emotions about how you feel. The fact is you are strong. That's okay. Even strong people need to put stuff down and rest every once in a while. So I'm feeling like that there is an infatuation. The Lovers didn't come up by accident here. Now this particular deck, if you're not familiar, is the Tarot of the Holy Light. It's a very unique artistic style that they went for, taking an ancient hermetic and esoteric kind of tracked woodcuts and then coloring it in modern style. It's a really interesting vibe. But I like their art. That said, though, first of all is the idea again of recognizing that this is going to occur multiple times, and more importantly, it has already occurred multiple times in her life. You're not the first or the last person she's going to do this to. It's probably occurring with other people right now as well. So you can go through the steps of taking like the YouTube steps or the Facebook steps or whatever, like report and ban and these types of things. But ultimately, the best way to do it is that if there's no effect, there's no nourishment any longer. Stop nourishing. Right? So don't answer the trolls. Don't respond to the comments. Delete the comments without responding to them. These kinds of things matter, and eventually it will wean, because if there's no feedback, then there's no play anymore. Yeah, you know what? That's okay. I mean, there's going to be bullies and trolls, and so be it. I don't welcome them in my channel or in my life, but they don't really get to me. Um, you know, um, Sometimes they can if they kind of know what buttons to push, but really it's a matter of just get out of my channel, just ban, just block. Let them get a different name and pop back in, block that one. Like, really, it's okay. I mean, how much effort is it to block a name? And at the same time, bullying requires participation. Otherwise, then you just have someone who's blowing malicious nonsense out of their mouth while you listen to it. Bullying implies an energy exchange of them taking power from you. But if you don't offer them that, like if you literally like laugh at their insanity, because that's what it is. And although I don't know if laughing is correct, because you could actually, if you're being appropriate, pity them. This person is empty to the degree that they find pleasure in trolling. They find pleasure in stirring the pot of negativity and adding to the entropy of the universe. And what are you going to do, man? I mean, you're not going to stop them. But you can recognize what it is, and it really is an empty soul that needs love. And now, however, love from afar. Don't interact with this person. Do not engage them. But recognize what they're doing and why, and let it go. You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it here, and I'll look out for her. And hopefully, actually, she'll be open enough to have a conversation with me, and her and I can really get to the root of why she's acting that way. Although I'm not going to hold my breath. But if it happens, that'd be nice. Anyway, that said, if you want any additional information about this as well, I try to do live streams once a day, at least 5 times a week, but at least once a day. This is my second stream today. Oh, that's not okay. That means they're really inside of you. But it also means that there's pent-up stuff that your body's using this circumstance to get rid of also, and so not all of that's because of her. There's other stuff in there too you're trying to get out, that your body's using it's using the valve that just opened because of her to get rid of other things. And so I think you should take a breath. Don't forget, readers need to step away. Readers need a reader, right? Like psychologists need someone they can go to and vent, because you're like, imagine the energy. I've done 27 readings today, and it's 4 a.m., and I'm kind of overdoing it. I'm sort of overextending, but I love it. But there needs to be a point where I decompress, or you're going to go freaking nuts, right? I mean, you got to be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. And what does that mean right now? It means take a breath. Don't give this person power. Love them. Love them for what they are, which is a beautiful, infinite being of light that's in pain right now. And they're choosing the remedy of their suffering. Their method of coping is hurting you. God bless. How awful is that, right? Now, you can end the cycle by not letting them hurt you. Silly Billy, what's happening? Thanks for popping in. So, okay, I hope that was insightful. Thank you. I am really, really tired. I'm going to run through a couple of other things here, and then I'm going to have to run. I will say to anyone who just popped in the room, and we'll see who actually does it, I'm happy to give you your personal message, just not right now. All I need you to do is put your month and date, don't need the year, in the comments of this video, and I will respond to that comment with your personal message within the next 12 hours. And I also live stream at least once a day and put readings up every day on the channel. So I have a personal message, a birthday message, a pet message if you have family, pets in the family, and then and a mind-body-soul connection reading. And so you can check that out on the channel. It's up right now for today, for the 2nd. All right. Otherwise, just go ahead, comment to this video your month and day of birth, and I will tell you your birth card and give you an interpretation of what that means related to the 10-day period that we're in right now. Because right now we're moving from the 8 into the 9 of Pentacles, all right? And so what does that mean? It depends on your birth card. So in the meantime, I'm going to end the stream. What I'll do, I'll leave up the wheel so that you can find your birth card. Just look for your birthday, and then the outer wheel is your birth card, and then I'll do the interpretation from there. If you would rather just plug in your birthday in the comments, do that, and I'll do the legwork of finding your card for you. Otherwise, thank you so much to everybody that participated in tonight's stream. I'm very exhausted. It's 4 a.m. and I need to be good to myself as well. And anyone I did a reading for right now, frankly, I would be like really tired, and that's not fair to you either. Comment in here the video with your birthday, and I'll do your message for you. I'll leave the wheel up before I end the stream for a couple minutes, and so anyone who would like to can take a look at that wheel, find your birthday, and either use it yourself, or you can put that in the comments and I'll give you your message, okay? So thank you so much to everyone that participated, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.